Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. For you guys that don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make NBA DFS content, NFL content. All these videos, they go over to a subreddit. I'll have it linked down below where I make updates if there is any news throughout the day, more so prominently during NBA. And you can ask me questions leading up to the slate, up to lock, or if you just want to talk strategy, anything, I'll be over there. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on X right here. And if you're looking for more in-depth content like sportsbook plays for NBA, NFL, MLB, WNBA, private videos going over each slate, player pools with cash cores, GPP cores, large field tournament cores, I specifically say who I'd like to be overweight, underweight to, all that good stuff. I'll have that linked down below. All right, let's go over my results from the previous week two. Was a good week for myself as far as the Monday slate and the showdowns. Broke even, I think, overall, but week two as a whole on the Sunday slate was pretty solid for me. Cash games, this is like the easiest cash game lineup I think I've ever seen personally. So that was very straightforward. Excuse me. Drake May, CMC, Chase Brown, Hollywood Brown, T. Higgins, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Fannin, Ashane, Ramsey. Very straightforward week for cash. GPPs went great as well. I played the quarterbacks that I always say I like in GPPs. Dak Prescott, I played. Tua, I liked as a bounce back candidate. That worked out well. Joe Burrow, even cashed, thanks to 4% Iomanar. I don't know if I'm butchering his last name there. And then my last lineup was the Jalen Hurts lineup, who I said I liked at low ownership. That did not work out at all. Best lineup was definitely that Dak lineup. Made a mistake not trying to fit in Neighbors. I was just too high on Ashane, too high on CMC, that I ran out of money. And that was a huge mistake on my part. And playing Hollywood Brown, I think, was a mistake in GPPs this week with his ownership steaming up. Even though in the video, I believe I said I'd like to be underweight. Yeah, that was a mistake. Definitely made some mistakes. Still did good with those mistakes, but could have been a lot better if I just forced in Neighbors like I should have, right? All right, let's talk about this slate. We'll go player by player. We'll go over cash games while we're going over it, and we will talk about GPPs, and we'll just go player by player. I've player pool done. Well, it's not done. I add to it every week on Friday night, Saturday night, etc., etc. No core yet, but you get the point. I may pull it up while we're going over cash as well. All right, let's start on the Houston side of things. These first games are pretty weak to me as far as GPPs go. I personally don't think I'll be getting to any CJ Stroud at 5.5K. You have not a ton of good quarterbacks. I shouldn't say that. I would say good fantasy options at quarterback this week. Like, you don't have the Lamars, you don't have the Josh Allens, you don't have the Jaden Daniels, you don't have Joe Burrow, right? But you do have like some really high projected quarterback plays for their price points, right? You have a Drake May, who's one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. My computer's being really slow. You have the chalk of the week in Marcus Mariota. You have more chalk. Hopefully the ownership, I'm hoping, goes down on Carson Wentz, but you get the point. Some really insane projections for really cheap quarterbacks this week. So I'll probably be passing on Stroud in my pool personally. I don't think I'll be getting to any Nick Chubb. If I were to play anything, I think I'll like a one-off Nico Collins in GPPs. I think you could do worse, but this offense has not looked good. Whatever's going on with Stroud, it's disgusting. So I'll mainly be passing on the Texans. I'm not going to get to Dalton Schultz either. No cash game plays in that game either. Moving on to Jacksonville Jaguars. Not too bullish on the spot here for the Jaguars, but I think there's some plays that like obviously are viable. As far as T-Law goes, maybe I'll include in my pool. I don't think I will be as of now, but I could. Tootin's becoming a thing, so I'm not too high on Travis Etienne this week. Wide receiver, I am a little bit interested in like a 1% owned zero. He's like projecting for 0.5% ownership this week in Travis Hunter. Now, Brian Thomas is obviously going to be dealing with a tough spot going up against Houston. Hunter's going to be running out of the slot. And he didn't play much on offense last week. They had a someone on defense got injured. He is going to be back for this week, so I would just suspect that Hunter's going to go back to that like 70+% of the snaps this week playing out of the slot, with more of the focus being on Brian Thomas Jr., right? So I'll mention Travis Hunter as like a interesting 0 to 1% owned GPP play. It's just hard for him to find a ceiling with his low ADOT rate. That's the only issue, but I'm not going to rule him out. I believe I did include him in my player pool, and then Strange is obviously playable, but I think there are better options I want to get to. No cash game plays in that game. If you want to consider Brian Thomas Jr., by all means, go for it. I don't think I'll be getting there in cash this week. All right, moving on to Atlanta. So I actually kind of like Penix and GPPs at 5.6K, just as a low-owned quarterback stack that I'd like to include in my pool. I do like some position players on this Falcons team. I actually like a lot on this Falcons team going up against the Panthers. It's really going to depend on how you think the game script is going to go for this team, because they're not going to throw the ball if they're going to be up, right? That's the one thing that's going to be really, really tough to figure out here. Obviously, sportsbook think they're going to win. Bijan's going to get all the work, right? But yeah, I definitely have interest in Penix. I like more of the stacking options, though. Like, I'm pretty high on Drake London this week at low ownership. If you want to go to Mooney, I don't mind that. I like Kyle Pitts as a lone tournament play at tight end this week. Everyone's spending up for tight end. He's a really good matchup. Carolina, they are steaming fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I actually took his over receiving yards at 39.5. I don't know if that's there. Still doubt it. But if it is, go play it. Like I said, so yeah, I like Pitts and GPPs. I like Drake London. I don't think too many people are going to play him. But Bijan Robinson obviously going to be the most high-owned play on this team. I don't think you can poke too many holes. Great spot going up against Carolina. Algiers always going to be a thing, but Bijan could get a ton of work. Great spot. Involved in the passing game. I think he's one of the better running back plays in the slate. He's obviously in play for cash games. No holes to poke there. So yeah, cash game plays. Bijan's great. If you want to play him, by all means, go for it. I don't think I'll be getting to Drake London in cash or Kyle Pitts or Penix. All right, let's move on to the Carolina side of things. I mean, Bryce Young is just bad. I was wrong. I was very, very high on this Panthers offense coming into the offseason. I'm going to admit my defeat in week 3. So, yeah, I'm not getting there in this spot. Atlanta's D has been great, especially against the run, so I'm not playing the running backs. McMillan, always going to be in play for me. I still think he's a little bit too cheap for his role right now, and they're always going to be projected from playing from behind. So I don't mind McMillan, just tournament only play for me, no cash game plays in Carolina. All right, then we get to the Packers. I'm not really going to be too into Jordan Love this week, but I do like Josh Jacobs quite a bit. I think people are going to be very, very scared to play him going up against Cleveland, but the role is just so good. Like him, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, the roles, Saquon Barkley obviously as well, but minus the tush push, are just so good. They're going to get so much work, and I think he's going to get squeezed up at the top. He projects really good, so hopefully the people who just slam projections won't make his ownership go up too much, but I actually think he's a really good lone running back play this week at $7,000. Wide receiver, pass. If I were to play anyone, it would be Wicks. And then tight end, we have Kraft, I believe, who will be out, but I'm not going to get to too much here. Cash game plays, if you want to consider Jacobs, by all means, go for it. But I think there's 5 running backs this week that are just, like, phenomenal, right? I can pull up my pool. Christian McCaffrey, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Jordan Mason, right? All right, moving on to Cleveland. I also think Packers defense is great. Joe Flacco, notorious for dropping back a ton, massive ceiling going up against a Joe Flacco-led offense with massive upside for interceptions, sacks, pick sixes, forced fumbles, all that good stuff, right? Hate Joe Flacco this week. No to the running backs. Wide receivers, nope. And then Fannin is fine. If you want to go there, it's okay. I don't mind it. All right. The games have been pretty bleh for now, but I think this is a game that we can definitely get into. I think Jake Browning is probably not going to get played by the field, and he's been a competent quarterback when he has gotten starts. He's been productive when he's gotten the starts. Obviously, he played in, I believe, 7 games in 2023, so he has a rapport with this team, right? So 5,500, Jake Browning, I think is a good tournament play. I will definitely have him in my player pool. If I'm playing him, I'm obviously pairing him with Jamar Chase. Now in a vacuum, if you're choosing like one-offs up at the top, I do prefer CeeDee Lamb. He's probably my favorite spend-up wide receiver on the slate. And then you also have Puka. But I'm more so going to be playing, you can obviously use Chase as a one-off, but like Browning stack's always going to be with Jamar Chase. And then I'll probably single stack, or if you want to go with like Chase Brown, I think that's okay. I think a lot of people are worried about Chase Brown, especially with like a Browning, but I actually think his receiving volume is going to be pretty damn good with Browning. Browning in that 7-game stint targeted, who was it? Joe Mixon a fair bit of time, and the Vikings played 2 high safeties quite a bit, which is pretty good for running backs and receiving. Now the only downside of them, I'm expecting Browning to play a lot under center. So I'd say that hurts it a little bit. But like Vikings playing 2 high helps quite a bit with receiving. So Brown, if you want to go there, I think it's fine. Don't mind it. I think the receiving work will be better than people think with Browning under center. And then, yeah, we talked about the wide receivers. As far as cash game plays, nothing here for me. All right, then we get to one of the most popular plays on the slate in a second. But let's talk about Carson Wentz, who was going to be the undisputed cash game quarterback on the week until Jaden Daniels got rolled out, and we have Marcus Mariota now. But Carson Wentz, we'll see. If he comes in low owned, I am going to be all over some 4K Carson Wentz and GPPs. If he comes in chalk, kind of similar to what I said to like Mac Jones the other week, then I'm inclined to be underweight. He is not a good quarterback at this stage in his career. It's so unfortunate. But yeah, it's going to depend on ownership for me. And Justin Jefferson's got it done with any quarterback that he's played with, by albeit very bad ones. So do still like Jefferson, even with Carson Wentz. You could argue it's going to be an upgrade from J.J. McCarthy. I don't think that's a contrarian take or a bad take at all. So I still do like J.J. I'm not really into Thielen. And then we get to the chalk. Jordan Mason at 5.4K. Just going to be an absolute bell cow. Look who's behind him. There's just nobody to take any opportunities away from Jordan Mason. Do I think it's bulletproof chalk? No, I don't. Do I think he's an absolute must in cash? No, I don't, because you have absolutely all the money you could do whatever you want with this week in cash games. You could spend all the way up. You can go to a CMC. You can go to a JT. You can go to a Bijan, right? You can spend on a wide receiver. Phenomenal play. Great play. Cash game, phenomenal play. No issues there. Do I think we'll get a little bit overowned in GPPs? Yes, I do, because there's so many great running back plays in the slate. But I can't. Great play. Talked about wide receiver. Hawkinson's cooked. I don't know what's going on there. And then, yeah, I'll use Wentz in my stacks. Depends on what his ownership is going to be there. Moving on to Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if Gonzalez is going to be on the other side of this game. If he is in, that's going to be if he is out, that's going to be a really good spot for DK Metcalf at 5.7K. And I also think this game is a good GPP game. You guys know I love Drake May. Pretty much every single week he's been in good spots. Love him again this week, so I'm more so interested in the Patriots side of things, but I don't mind DK Metcalf as like a lone tournament play. If Gonzalez is out on the other side of this game, it's going to be a really good spot for him. I actually think Jaylen Warren is another interesting running back that projects pretty decent. That's going to get squeezed by all the other running back value, so involved in the passing game. So I'd like me some Warren in tournaments. And then cash games, I don't think there's much I'm going to be getting to on these Steelers. Let me get to the Patriots. Love Drake May and GPPs this week. I know I've said that every single week, but I love him once again here. He's probably going to get steamed. I'm praying he doesn't get steamed, but if he does, I still love him. Great spot going up against the Steelers. They have been dreadful defensively, so love me some Drake May. And I think the Steelers, this game can stay competitive and shoot out where they have to throw the ball, right? Moving on to running back. Nope. Wide receiver, if you're going to stack with Drake May, I think Hunter Henry is your best option at 3.8K, followed by Stephon Diggs. But Butte has definitely been the best at 4.6K. I think Diggs would be the lowest owned. But I think Hunter Henry is definitely your best option. If you want to play him naked, you could absolutely play him naked as well. That's not the route I'm going to go, but love Drake May in tournaments. As far as cash games, I would have said Drake May would have been my favorite cash game quarterback on the week, but then we got like Carson Wentz, like I said, and then we got Marcus Mariota, who is a lock in my opinion. All right, moving on to the Rams. I'm not going to be streaming any Matthew Stafford this week in GPPs, unfortunately. I'm not going to be streaming any Kyren Williams either. I do think Puka Nacua at 7.7K is not in that bad of a spot as people are think he's going to be in, so depending on ownership, if that really gets low enough, I love him. Devontae Adams at 6.2K. Going to be chalky. I've no takes there. I think might go a little bit overowned. He's popping in a decent amount of optimals. If he is chalky, I'll pass. Tight end, nope. All right, then we get to another stack that I am loving this week, and that is Jalen Hurts going up against the Rams. Like I said, everyone's paying down at quarterback this week. If all those quarterbacks bust and you get a massive ceiling games from a Jalen Hurts at 6.8K, you're going to be so far above the field at low ownership. So love me some Hurts and GPPs. Wide receiver, if I'm pairing him with anyone, it's A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. You could single or you can double. And I think Saquon Barkley's, I know it's not a good spot, but like I said, has probably the highest ceiling of any running back on this slate. Still no Will Shipley. The only thing hurting him, like I said, the tush push. No one wants to play him. So, yeah, Saquon, I think, is great in tournaments this week. Cash game plays, think Puka is perfectly fine at 7.7K, and I'm not going to go to anything else in this game as far as cash games go. All right, now we get into some of the juicy games of the week. Jets at Tampa Bay, no thank you. I will be passing. Tyrod Taylor is in play in tournaments, but more of a large field only play for me. Garrett Wilson, I'm only going to be playing with Tyrod, and I'm passing on much else there. And basically passing on this game as a whole. I do think Bucky Irving at 7-1 is another good tournament running back that I don't think a lot of people are going to play. I think the Rashad White stuff from last week, bit of an outlier. So I think Bucky is good. Should be involved in the passing game. So I like some Bucky in tournaments, but I'm mainly passing on everything else here. Sterling Shepard could open up, but that's about it. No cash game plays in this game either. Moving on to the Colts, Daniel Jones is fine. Then we get to one of my favorite running back plays in the week. Tyler Warren, we'll keep an eye on that. If he is, he's one of the better tight end plays. And then we get to one of my favorite running back plays in the league, and that's just Jonathan Taylor, man. Nobody has as good of a role as Jonathan Taylor does in the NFL right now. Him, CMC, the 1A, 1B. You could argue, you could flip them, whatever order. He's been probably the best running back in the league this season. Love the role. Should be playing from head. Absolutely love Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a phenomenal cash game play. If you want to go there and cash, go for it. Love it, love it, love it. And then Warren, if you want to pay down at tight end this week, you can go there and cash as well. All right, Titans. I actually do like Tony Pollard quite a bit this week at 5.7K. If you wanted to pivot off that Jordan Mason chalk, we'll get to Kenneth Walker Jr. in a little bit. But I actually do like Tony Pollard. And that's mainly it from Tennessee. I don't think I'm playing any of the stacks. Raiders, Gino, no. GNT, I think, is a little bit interesting. At 6'7", as far as the wide receivers go, Jacoby Myers, always a solid cash game play if you need the salary relief. Good as a one-off. I'm not stacking this game. Stacking the Raiders, sorry. And then I think Brock Bowers is going to be properly owned at the tight end position because you have so much salary this week to spend up at tight end. But a good option. No issue with it at all. And then, I'm always playing Trey McBride over Brock Bowers in cash, but I'm not going to say Brock Bowers isn't viable, at least in cash. And then we get to Washington. Then you get to the cash game quarterback of the week, and that is Marcus Mariota. Can get it done on the ground. He has a 6.5 rushing line with like a 34. I think it's 34.5 yards. Might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but I know the line's 6.5 or 7.5. Might have moved up to 7.5, but I think most places it was 6.5. Can get it done on the ground. I have no problem. I think he's going to be able to run this offense pretty decently. So Mariota's great. I'm just worried about the ownership in GPPs, but cash games, I am playing Mariota. I am not getting away from it unless something massively changes. I do like him in GPPs. I do like pairing him with Terry McLaurin, and if you want to go to Zach Ertz, I think he's a good tight end option as well. As far as cash games go, I'm not going to get to the running back, but if I were, you can get to JCM, it's fine. Yeah, cash game, Mariota, Piss Nuke, and cash. That's mainly it. Then we get to Denver. Bo Nix, I was really deciding on if I wanted to include Bo Nix in my pool. He's projecting for about 7% ownership right now. Going up against the Chargers, I would assume they're playing from behind. Chargers like to pass a ton, so like this game, Chargers should, hopefully, they're not going to 2 clock, right? They've been the pass heaviest team in the league so far this year, and people did not expect that. So I'm going back and forth. I obviously would include him in like my 150 max pool and stuff like that. Not into the running backs. Sutton I think is fine. Troy Franklin picking up some ownership. I think going a little bit over owned, so I'll probably be underweight there. And then I think that's mainly it for me. No cash game plays on the Denver side. Moving on to the Chargers, so I do like Justin Herbert this week at 6.2K. I'm not into like Amari and Hampton. They're just throwing the ball way too much. And then we get to Keenan Allen, one of the better punt wide receivers on the slate this week at 4. He's just still way too cheap at 4.7K. Obviously, is that great connection with Justin Herbert. Not worried about the matchup too much here. Quentin Johnson's been phenomenal, and then Ladd McConkey's fine, but I prefer the cheaper options here for the Chargers if I am stacking. And I think that's mainly it. They're not throwing to the tight ends at all. It's just these three guys they are throwing to. They're not throwing to the running backs. So target tree is very, very condensed right now between Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey. Those are the only three people they're throwing to. So, yeah, Herbie, great. Like it. Not going to go cash game plays, just Keenan Allen for me on the Chargers. Moving on to the Saints, I think I'm mainly passing on everyone on the Saints. Seattle, one of the toughest matchups in the league for wide receivers. And then Juwan Johnson, I think, is a great tight end play at 3.9K this week. I don't know if I'll go there in cash, but a great tight end play. Moving on to Seattle, I think I'm mainly passing on the stacking options here, but then we get to the big news. Charbonnet, going to be out. Kenneth Walker Jr., absolute nuke, going to be properly owned in GP. Well, actually, if he comes in below 30%, I think that's too low. The role is just going to be so good. Kenneth Walker is an extremely productive running back. He'll be involved in the passing game. I like the spot. He's 5.8K. If you're playing cash, you probably just play Kenneth Walker Jr. Or, did I say Jr.? Kenneth Walker III. Absolutely love him. I think he is the best point per dollar running back play on the slate, but you guys already know this. I have no issue with his ownership in GPPs, and if you're playing cash, just play him. And then JSN is, nobody has what he's getting right now. Just 9 targets, 13 targets. Another phenomenal cash game play if you are playing cash this week. I'll probably be playing both Kenneth Walker and Jackson Smith and Jigbo. Pull up the player pool. He's right there. Alrighty, as far as stacking options go, I don't know. And then we get to another game I absolutely love here. Two terrible defenses going up against each other. So sign me up for 5.9K Dak Prescott. Sign me up for CeeDee Lamb, who I think is your top wide receiver spend up on the slate. I love Jake Ferguson at $4,000 as a tight end option. I also really like Javonte Williams in tournaments that no one's going to play at 6.1K. He has been phenomenal for this Dallas team. Best ball bros are in shambles there. I love Dallas this week. Once again here, cash game plays. Love CeeDee Lamb if you're spending all the way up at the top. You could argue for Ferguson, but I'm not going to go there. And no to Javonte Williams. And then we get to Caleb Williams, who I like quite a bit. This is such a good matchup for everyone on this team. So, Rome, one of the best wide receiver point per dollar plays in the slate. I love DJ Moore if you wanted to get different this week. Sparklings of Loveland going to get more involved this week, but we will see. I'm not going to go there, but if you want like a large field tournament dart, that's fine. Not too into Swift, but I get it if you want to play it. I mainly just love this double with Williams, and I think this game is phenomenal in tournaments. Love it. As far as cash game stuff goes, yeah, Rome, phenomenal. And, yeah, let's move on to Arizona, the last game of the day, going up against San Francisco. And, yeah, Kyler, I don't mind. Trey McBride, going to be the highest owned tight end play on the slate. I don't mind it. My only issue is, like, does he really have that massive ceiling to absolutely nuke you on this slate? Like, his touchdown upside is absolutely minimal, and I think he's going to be properly owned. I think if you're playing cash, he's great. Tournaments, properly owned for sure, but I have no issue with it. And then running back Connor, definitely a little bit disappointed with the snap share and the Benson usage. So it's a good spot, but kind of makes me iffy. And then there were quotes about trying to get the ball into Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison. No, it was the opposite. It was I forget the exact wording. I I think it was like Kyler talking about that Marvin Harrison's going to have to understand that he's going to get 10 targets some weeks, 3 targets next week. I forget what it exactly was. I'll have to look after this video. But I'll make an update on Reddit about it. And yeah, I'll have Kyler in my pool. Obviously, I like Trey McBride. And yeah, I'm not really into James Conner this week, even though it is a good matchup going up against San Francisco. They've been bleeding fantasy points for running backs. As far as running back goes, not too into San Francisco as a snack. If you want to go there with like Mac Jones, by all means go for it. Is there any update on the Brock Purdy stuff? Oh, he's questionable. Interesting. He's not going to play though. CMC's great. Don't need too big of an analysis there. And then obviously the George Kittle on IR. We'll keep an eye on Juwan Jennings. And then yeah, Purcell I like. Just San Francisco can't get away from the injury bug. All right, quick cash core guys. So this isn't guaranteed what I'm going to be playing this week. Cash games are very, very tough this week. Like there's 3 to 4 damn near locks in cash, but trying to figure out the rest with like the allotted salary that you're going to have this week, there are so many ways you can go about cash this week. So real quick, Mariota, I'm going to say Kenneth Walker, I am going to say Rome, and with the amount of money that you're going to have this week, I think if you're not playing Trey McBride in cash, I think you're probably punting. So I'm going to probably start with something like that. All right, that's going to do it for the video, guys. Hope you guys had a great night. I will be over on Reddit if you need to talk to me and in Discord. Have a good one.